You know that glitter conspiracy theory that went absolutely viral on the internet? The one where everyone became convinced there was some mysterious mega buyer secretly hoarding the world's entire glitter supply? Complete internet mythology that somehow captured millions of people's imagination. But here's what's genuinely wild. While everyone was obsessing over fictional sparkly mysteries, there are actual criminal enterprises operating in plain sight that generate more revenue than most legitimate multinational corporations. We're talking about a shadow economy where over $2 trillion gets laundered annually. That's roughly the combined economic output of Spain and Portugal just flowing through criminal financial networks every year. It's one of those numbers that's so big it almost becomes abstract. But when you break down the specific industries driving this massive illicit economy, the scale becomes genuinely mind-blowing. Let me walk you through some of these underreported gold mines, starting with what might be the single most profitable natural resource crime on the planet: illegal logging. When I say profitable, we're talking about up to $150 billion worth of stolen timber harvested annually. That's enough wood to theoretically construct a wooden highway from New York to Los Angeles, all of it harvested illegally, and somehow made to appear completely legitimate by the time it reaches consumers. The sophistication of these operations is remarkable. In tropical forest regions like the Amazon, Central Africa, and Southeast Asia, illegal logging accounts for anywhere from 50 to 90% of all forestry activity. We're not talking about small-scale poaching. Illegal logging has essentially become the dominant business model, with legal operations often serving as convenient cover stories. The process they call wood laundering is genuinely ingenious in its audacity. Criminal organizations systematically corrupt entire supply chains, buying off forestry officials, police, customs agents, and port authorities. They harvest timber without permits, mix stolen wood with legal harvests during transport, process everything through legitimate sawmills, and attach fraudulent sustainability certifications that would fool most environmental auditors. By the time this timber reaches furniture stores or construction sites, it's completely indistinguishable from legally harvested wood. The documentation looks perfect, the certifications appear authentic, and everyone in the legitimate supply chain can reasonably claim they had no idea they were handling stolen goods. It's criminal sleight of hand operating at industrial scale. Governments lose over $10 billion annually just in unpaid taxes and fees from illegal logging on public lands alone. That's money that should fund infrastructure and public services, instead flowing to criminal networks, who reinvest those profits into corrupting more officials and expanding operations. It creates this self-perpetuating cycle where success breeds more success. While illegal logging systematically harvests the planet's surface, there's another criminal enterprise attacking from underground that's become even more lucrative: illegal mining. Here's a statistic that challenges conventional assumptions about criminal hierarchies. In Colombia, some major cartels now derive over half their revenue from illegal gold mining. That's more money than they make from cocaine trafficking. The business logic is actually quite sound. Gold is a legitimate commodity with consistent global demand, so there's built-in market liquidity. Law enforcement agencies typically treat mining violations as lower priority than drug crimes, creating a more favorable risk-reward ratio. Plus, the infrastructure requirements for gold mining can often be disguised as legitimate industrial activity. The operational methods are environmentally catastrophic but economically efficient. To extract a single ounce of gold, illegal mining operations often destroy 20 tons of earth and contaminate thousands of gallons of water with mercury and cyanide. These aren't precision extraction operations. They're industrial-scale environmental disasters with impressive profit margins. The human cost adds another dimension to the economics. These mines operate using forced labor systems where workers, frequently undocumented migrants, get trapped in debt bondage arrangements. They owe money for transportation, housing, food, and equipment, with debts structured to grow faster than wages. Children work these sites regularly, handling toxic materials and breathing contaminated air instead of attending school. The laundering process mirrors timber operations. Stolen gold gets mixed with legitimate supplies, certified with falsified documentation, processed through licensed refineries, and sold to jewelry manufacturers, electronics companies, and investors who have no practical way of verifying the metal's actual origin. Moving to something that might seem more pedestrian but operates with remarkable sophistication, the illicit tobacco trade, generating tens of billions annually. The economic fundamentals are almost perfect from a criminal perspective. Tobacco products have guaranteed demand due to addiction, substantial profit margins created by taxes and regulations, and relatively low enforcement priority compared to drug trafficking. It's like discovering a legal adjacent drug trade with minimal legal consequences. The operational sophistication ranges from elegant simplicity to impressive complexity. Basic contraband operations involve purchasing cigarettes in low-tax jurisdictions and selling them where taxes are high. A single truck shipment can generate hundreds of thousands in profit through pure geographic arbitrage. Advanced operations demonstrate genuine manufacturing expertise. Criminal organizations establish facilities that produce counterfeit versions of popular brands with quality control that rivals legitimate manufacturers. They reverse engineer tobacco blends, packaging, filters, and paper to create products so authentic that industry experts struggle to identify fakes. Distribution networks exploit every vulnerability in global commerce. Shipping containers labeled as carrying legitimate goods actually transport millions of contraband cigarettes. Products get exported to countries with no realistic market for them, then disappear into smuggling networks spanning multiple continents. Online sales create direct consumer access that bypasses traditional enforcement choke points entirely. The health implications add complexity layers. Counterfeit cigarettes often contain higher concentrations of toxic chemicals because they're manufactured without safety oversight, using contaminated tobacco and industrial chemicals that wouldn't pass regulatory approval. Consumers believe they're purchasing discounted, legitimate products, but actually receive items specifically designed to maximize addiction while minimizing production costs. Fuel theft operates on an entirely different audacity level. In Mexico alone, this criminal enterprise costs over $1 billion annually. These aren't opportunistic individuals siphoning gasoline from parked cars. Criminal organizations literally tap major petroleum pipelines and steal fuel at industrial volumes. The technical requirements are genuinely impressive. They install sophisticated siphoning equipment on pressurized national pipelines without triggering explosions. They coordinate extraction timing to avoid detection systems, transport stolen fuel using legitimate-appearing tanker trucks operated by professional drivers with convincing false credentials, and maintain parallel distribution networks that directly compete with legitimate fuel companies. The violence surrounding fuel theft is extraordinarily intense. Different criminal organizations wage territorial conflicts over pipeline access using military-grade equipment and tactics. These confrontations involve automatic weapons, armored vehicles, and coordinated strategies that routinely overwhelm local law enforcement capabilities. The newest criminal frontier exploits digital economy vulnerabilities through what practitioners call hackercom. Cybercrime operations so sophisticated, they function essentially as criminal technology companies. These generate millions in profits through methods that would be impressive if they weren't illegal. These aren't stereotypical hackers working alone in basements. Many operations feature specialized divisions, quality assurance processes, and customer service departments. Some focus on cryptocurrency theft using techniques like SIM swapping, gaining control of victims' phone numbers to access digital wallets containing millions. Others operate criminal service businesses, selling ransomware capabilities, providing money laundering through cryptocurrency exchanges, or offering access to compromised government computer systems. Recent evolution toward physical violence represents a concerning development. In real life, COM employs kidnapping, torture, and violence threats to force cryptocurrency transfers. Extortion COM specifically targets minors, threatening young people with doxing and real-world violence unless they comply with digital ransom demands. Some groups offer SWAT-for-hire services, making false police reports to dispatch SWAT teams to targeted addresses, sometimes as diversions during other criminal operations. What makes these criminal enterprises particularly effective is their interconnected nature. These aren't isolated illegal activities. They're components of integrated networks where organizations participate across multiple illicit markets simultaneously. Transportation routes used for fuel theft also serve tobacco smuggling. Money laundering services, processing timber profits, handle cryptocurrency theft proceeds. Personnel and infrastructure get shared between different criminal enterprises. This creates operational resilience that's remarkable from a business analysis perspective. When law enforcement disrupts one activity, organizations shift resources to others. When regulations tighten in specific sectors, they exploit vulnerabilities in adjacent markets. It's essentially criminal portfolio diversification that spreads risk while maximizing profit opportunities across multiple revenue streams. The integration with legitimate business has become so complete that distinguishing legal commerce from criminal activity often proves practically impossible. Stolen timber gets processed by legitimate sawmills. Illegally mined gold gets refined by licensed facilities. Counterfeit products move through apparently legitimate distribution channels. Rather than operating outside existing commercial systems, these criminals have evolved to become functionally indistinguishable from those systems. Regulatory environments enable much of this through structural weaknesses, inconsistent enforcement, and corruption that ranges from opportunistic to systematic. Many countries lack sufficient resources for effective oversight of complex supply chains. International cooperation gets complicated by jurisdictional limitations and incompatible legal frameworks. The sheer volume of global trade makes comprehensive monitoring practically impossible with current technological and administrative capabilities. Corruption functions as critical infrastructure for these operations. Officials receive systematic bribes to provide permits, falsify documentation, and ignore obvious violations. This extends well beyond developing nations. Sophisticated criminal networks cultivate relationships with officials in major developed economies, using legitimate business connections to disguise corrupt arrangements. These operations create economic distortions affecting legitimate markets. When substantial portions of major industries operate outside legal frameworks, market prices become disconnected from actual supply and demand fundamentals. Legal businesses struggle to compete with operations that avoid taxes, environmental compliance costs, and fair labor practices. The most effective disruption strategies focus on financial flows rather than physical operations. Following money trails reveals connections between apparently separate criminal activities and exposes infrastructure supporting entire illicit ecosystems. Confiscating laundered profits often disrupts operations more effectively than arresting individual operators or seizing physical contraband. Advanced technology offers promising detection capabilities. Satellite imagery can identify illegal logging and mining in real time. Artificial intelligence can analyze trade patterns to flag suspicious shipments. Blockchain technology could create transparent supply chains, making it difficult to launder illicit goods. The glitter conspiracy captured public imagination because people enjoy mysteries and hidden explanations for everyday phenomena. But the genuine mystery is how criminal enterprises generating hundreds of billions in annual revenue can operate while public attention remains focused on fictional conspiracies. These shadow economies aren't hidden because they're secretive. They're hidden because their seamless integration with legitimate business renders them nearly invisible to casual observation. While society debates internet folklore, actual criminal organizations systematically exploit gaps in regulatory frameworks, enforcement capabilities, and international cooperation mechanisms. The scale and sophistication of these operations represent some of the most successful business model innovations of the modern era, which would be genuinely impressive if the societal costs weren't so substantial.